Check, check. Yep, works now.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to call to order the November 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of the Natural Features Review Board. Oh, Jamie, I didn't wait for you. Jamie, can we have roll call?
Thank you for waiting. Yes. Chair Colwick.
Present.
Director Fuller. Present. Director Glasser.
Happy to be here.
Director Leto.
Present.
Director Martin.
Present.
Director Sylvester.
Present.
Great, so no absent members today. Next is a motion to approve a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next is the approval of the meeting minutes from the September 27th, 2022 NFP Review Board meeting. Can I entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 27th?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Okay, next we have general citizen comments. If you have a comment from the public, we have a podium up here. Be sure to talk into the microphone and you'll have 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is John Allen. I reside with my wife at 3412 Bronson Boulevard. I've lived along Bronson for about 50 years. I'm here to talk to you about something called the Bronson Boulevard Redesign Project that extends from Kilgore Road to Peeler Street over 2 miles in what I believe is almost entirely the woodland and preservation district over which you have jurisdiction. That project, and I gave some materials that I hope you have. If you take a look at them, the first page has some pictures of what Bronson looks like now. The second page is a representation of what Bronson will look like, all 2 miles of it, if this project is done. It would remove all of the curbside trees. It would vanish the canopy. It would affect significant slopes varying from 20 or 30 degrees up to maybe as high as 60 degrees around the Inkster Bridge. And I can find no trace of any review of this project by you. I can find no trace of the city even asking your opinion or views on this, much less conforming to the procedure which is in the preservation ordinance. My own estimate is that this would remove approximately 1,000 trees. It would alter almost a mile of significant slope, affecting rainwater and drainage. This is what you are here to protect. This is your duty under the preservation ordinance. And I'm here today, and I gave you a lot of materials that concern the defects in the posting and all sorts of other things. I invite you to read them. It took hours to put them together. It shows, I think, the profound errors that are in the plan, not the least of which, by the way, the picture I gave you that comes from the posting by the city about the project is a southbound view that has the west on the left and the east on the right. No compass in the world does that, but it makes it very, very difficult for anybody to understand this. We've encouraged the commission last night to look into this and to investigate it. I likewise encourage you to do the same. I'm here talking to you today because there's no place for public comment on any of these postings or on the survey. It is simply not allowed. Even though it's credited for some 16 hours of public comment, I would have to come in this session every one of your meetings for the next 10 years to do that. I think it would be people in your position looking into it and asking some tough questions about it that need to be asked. Our contact information is at the bottom of that. I also gave it to the staff member. If I can give you any help or assistance to you, please contact us. And by the way, there are well over 60, now almost 70, and growing every day, members of a group of people who are equally interested and who sympathize with all of this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. Okay, seeing no other comments from the room, do we have any from the phones?
No comments at this time.
Okay, great. Next, we'll move on to board comments. All right, then we'll have some more time later for announcements. Next, we'll move on to new business, which is the approval of the NFP site plan application for site improvement project located at 1415 Harrison Street and 600 East Mausel Avenue. Go ahead and step forward.
Sorry, guys, first timer.
No,
first
you're
timer
good.
here.
Me too, always, every day.
All right, so what this is sorry,
Can you
Just
speak
closer to
into
the mic.
So we
I'm
can hear you
sorry.
over the
I'm
street.
sorry. It's
No, all good.
1450 North Harrison is the wastewater treatment plant. It's all one continuous site. For whatever reason, it has two addresses. This is a truck scale, commercial scale that dump trucks, doubles, triples, hauling salt, aggregate, our biosolids, all that we weigh to make sure that everything is equal and totaled up, the same as what we bought, the same as what goes out. And so that's what this is in relevance to. We had a scale, it stopped working, it's beyond repair. The new one just moves a little further down from where the new one would go here. The old one would be our new biodiesel center, and then where the old fueling station would be, will be a new force main for the plant flow coming through. So that's what's going on with that. I apologize, I didn't have anything prepared. This is the first time, again, I didn't know what to expect, so.
That's okay. Do we have any board questions while he is up here giving a presentation? I think I saw from the site review or our document that it's a mowed field, currently maintained as a mowed field.
It is. It's the back of our plan. It's just reserved green space for expansion, and that there's a lot of different green spaces in the plant that are for future expansion. So in other words, when one process stops, you have to have one place to build one that's up and running before you shut off another one. So that's what that all is out there. And that's why I say consumers just came through and did a big power upgrade for that whole entire area that pertained to the graphics packaging also. So yeah, it's all mowed. I think we really have a hogweed problem back there, so this actually a help.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So there wouldn't be any new, like, utility cuts or anything like that to get power to it? Everything would already be on site?
There are new utility cuts because during this, this project, we're also going to take upgraded power out toward the back gate, which is the north end of the plant, Mausel. So right now we have limited power out there. During a project previous to this one, a few years back, we brought power, main power back halfway through the plant. This one would also bring it all the way to the plant, to Mausel Street, and complete that. But it would run right along the right of way of our internal back driveway, so it wouldn't even be
Okay,
out in the public arena.
got it. Great, thanks.
Yeah. And I apologize, I can forward all these plans again to Jamie if anybody wanted to take a peek. They're soup to read and everything. I didn't.
There's a large packet there, or a larger format for you guys to take a look at. I can quickly go over the staff report and evaluation of the project if you'd like.
Thank you.
Chair Colwick? Yes, okay. Let me make sure I have the right thing in front of me. And thank you, Mr. Nelson, really helps you have a better layout of the site. I think that was the one thing I thought was missing is sort of the location within the bigger site, but it makes sense, it's along that drive that goes north out to Mazel.
Correct.
Yeah, so from the aerial.
There's woods on one side and nothing.
Yeah, so from the aerial, it looked as though the main natural feature or the main NFP standard that will be triggered by this project would be that stormwater review and any new stormwater treatment that has to happen, and that the city's stormwater engineer would then, during site plan, be able to weigh in and approve that part of it. So staff took a look at it, and the reason the parcel is part of the NFP overlay district is really two main features. The project, or the whole property, rather, has the Kalamazoo River as its easternmost boundary. This project is much more on the west side of the property. Just from a quick measure on the GIS, it looks like it's more than 700 feet west of the Kalamazoo River. So it places it outside of any of a riparian buffer standards or any triggers of that nature. And then the other item, if you look property-wide, there are a number of woodlands on the site. And it looks like there may be a couple of trees that would be cleared as part of this project, but it looked like it would be well within the clearing that's permitted as under the ordinance. So that just really didn't seem to be a concern here. And had it not been for the impervious surface change, this probably could have been one that we could have checked off, said no natural features are impacted, and we wouldn't have brought it forward to this board. But the way the ordinance reads right now, we wanted to get this in front of all of you. The only comments I had then would be to approve conditional upon that stormwater management review and approval by the stormwater engineer. And then also any plants that would be perhaps added back in, and I don't know if that, I didn't see a landscaping plan on this project. It wouldn't be required under city zoning since it's not like a street front or, you know, something like that. It's really internal to this parcel. So I was just gonna mostly recommend that if any landscaping does get planted here, that we make sure that none of the invasive prohibited species are selected.
If we do plant anything, it's gonna be grass seed, city mix that we use out in the right of way anyhow, and just hydro seeded. That would be the most landscaping it's gonna get out there.
Perfect.
And then just field mowed from then on.
So who's the applicant in this case?
It's the City of Kalamazoo. Public Services Department has headed up. Yep. I guess it's operating as the wastewater treatment plant, so it's a, you know, publicly owned utility. And so there are some exceptions as well in the ordinance for utilities.
All right, I want to give us some time for discussion and then any questions for the applicant.
Yeah, if anybody would like a site tour, by all means, we can get you.
I would like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's an absolute.
You mentioned there was a few areas that were going to have infrastructure, current infrastructure removed and replaced with something else. So there's not lands that are going to be fallow and not used, right? They're just going to be, their use is going to be changed from what they currently are.
That's correct. And,
Okay.
yeah, so we tried to repair the original scale, and it's beyond repair. It's a long.
Okay.
Again, in the wastewater field, when we move or do something, we try to think somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 years out. What are we going to do in this particular spot 20 years from now?
Okay.
Before we just, yeah, so it's going to move down. The old scale gets pulled out at some point and becomes our biodiesel.
Okay. And another area you mentioned was a fueling area?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
up front in the main plant, and we need to get that fueling station out of there at some point so we can run another. When all the flow comes into the plant, it's then pushed through the plant through a series of pumps through one header. Anything happens to that header, that's a problem. So what we want to do is put another one in so that way we have a backup.
So will there be a need to create another fueling station somewhere to take the place of the one that's being
Yes,
pulled out.
that's where the scale is right now. is That's
Okay.
where that'll.
Gotcha.
It also takes it out of the main plant where we have a lot of foot traffic and you have commercial vehicles fueling. It'll move it out back where the commercial traffic needs to be by the aggregate bins, by the new scales, by the biodiesel once that goes in.
Okay, thank you.
So another question, so the city is the applicant here. And is there a permit involved, a building permit or a site plan approval process that this is pursuant to?
Yeah, so this phase of the project is, you see the site plan in front of you. That will go to our site plan review board. I think it's scheduled in the beginning of December.
Somewhere right there, yeah.
Yep, so this approval is ahead of the full site plan approval, and then there will be permits and inspections. So city properties tend to go through, right now the policy is that we send our city projects through essentially the same development review process that external, folks from the city would have to go through.
So that's routine for city projects in general, or?
That's typically the process the city uses right now.
Would that be the case for this matter that Mr. Allen brought before us, that I'd only seen the postcard, I had not heard about it?
Yeah.
Would that go through that same site plan review by the city?
That's a great question. Because that's operating in the city-owned right-of-way, and it's not in a zone district, something like NFP that pertains to zoning wouldn't apply in that space.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Because some of those NFP districts do touch on this property, this Bronson Boulevard corridor,
Yep.
as I recall.
Yep, that's correct. I think the difference here is that streets and that public right-of-way doesn't have a zone district, and that's where our zoning code, NFP lives in the zoning code, and so that applies to those zone districts. And so this is sort of that area that doesn't fall under that purview.
Interesting, but in this case, the wastewater treatment plant, a city facility, that is in a zoned district.
Yes,
And
this has a
zoning does-
manufacturing zone district, yeah.
There is zoning on that, whether,
Yep, and then the city tries to use, abide by its zoning code. So if we, as the city, were redoing a parking lot right at the road frontage, we would have to follow the zoning code, which would say, okay, you need to plant so many shrubs, spaced in a certain way, so that we get that consistent look all along the streetscape.
thank you, that helps clarify.
So before we put forth a motion to approve and vote on this, do we want to include that the landscaping include native plants and it's conditional upon the stormwater engineer, our approval today? Should we vote?
Yes. I
Okay.
guess I'm not clear if it seems like the landscaping is most relevant to like commercial stuff. I guess I know it's an aesthetic, it can have a function as well, but I think you mentioned that earlier. Could you clarify that a little bit, if it's something we're considering for the motion? Ashley, were you saying if landscaping would be required, then it would be?
And
Yes.
landscaping would be just native species. So my thought is that as this goes forward, they're going to look at our motion and our approval, and so if we can put those two items directly in the motion, it will make it clear that that's,
Yeah.
our votes are
So-
conditional on that.
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question, the way the zoning code reads, this project doesn't have any required plantings, like those certain number of shrubs or trees in a parking lot. However, the project, often a project will involve some kind of reseeding, or, if there were some shrubs that were thrown into the site plan at any point, I just wanted to make the applicant aware that, there are a couple of landscape requirements in NFP to be aware of if those were added in at any point. Right, there might be a couple of more weeks till they get to site plan, and sometimes that kind of stuff can pop up. It was more of just a heads up to be aware of, and it sounds like seeding is the only one. So I don't know if it's, completely necessary, but it is absolutely something you can put into your motion. We're just working out a new system here where in our city's site plan process, I'm the reviewer who signs off, so I will put into our system the exact motion, any conditions, and then, it's me as staff and our site plan review manager who will just follow up on those comments, and then we can check the box as approved once it meets this board's conditions. That's all.
Thanks.
Okay, so with that said, hello? Entertain a motion to approve the NFP site plan application for the site improvement project at 1415 Harrison Street and 600 East Mausel, conditional upon the approval of the stormwater engineer and that any plants planted are native species to Michigan.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, great, and we'll need to do a roll call vote for that?
Yes. Colwick.
Yes.
Fuller. Yes. Glasser.
Yes.
Leto.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Sylvester.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Great. And thank you. Have a good night. Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Next is the approval of a recommendation to City Commission to reappoint 3 board members for 3-year terms to the Natural Features Protection Board. And it doesn't say.
Yeah, I
who they
have
are,
a
but-
staff report quickly if you want me to. So give some explanation and background to this. The city clerk's office notified me of a lapse that I had not caught, which is that all of the board members besides 3 are up to term, or up to, are currently serving terms, and 3, Director Fuller, Director Martin, and Director Leto's membership or term had expired. And so we're looking for a motion to recommend that each of these members serve another 3-year term. They're all eligible for a 3-year term. I checked in with each of the members, and they seem willing to serve for another additional 3 years. They meet the requirements of the bylaws, and I think overall, you know, certainly from a staff perspective, we've really appreciated the input and the amount of expertise that all of the board members have demonstrated. I guess one last question I had for the group, with a positive recommendation from this board, this nomination report will go to the clerk's office, and it would go through the city commission approval that it needs, probably at the very next meeting. I will want to confirm residency, so I'll grab you 3 after, but I think everyone's actually a city of Kalamazoo resident, and I'm not sure if that was reflected. I wrote city and county resident, so I will just confirm that. But otherwise, that's the need for the nomination from this group that can be forwarded on to the city commission.
Okay,
So are you looking for a motion to that effect?
yes.
I will make that motion to renew the terms of these 3 members, Fuller, Martin, and Leto.
I support that motion.
All right. We can do a voice vote for this one, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not opposed, so the motion passes. Thank you all for your service.
So
So,
become effective retroactively in effect,
Yes.
so that their actions are legitimate?
Yes, and the term will also go for 3 years, ending March 31 of, what's 3 years from now, 2025? So it will be retroactive. I know that all of the board members were originally nominated and accepted in the summer of 2019, I feel like it was. But we're realigning with this next term, we're realigning everything with the city's regular schedule, which is typically the end of that first quarter is when most terms end. So we'll just retroactive that back and then get back on schedule. Thank you.
all right. And we just have one more item in new business, which is the approval of the 2023 annual meeting schedule for the Natural Features Review Board.
And I did get a message from one of our board members. Thank you for pointing out the schedule that was published in the agenda packet has an error for July. It's 25 or 28. You'll have to guess which day you should show up, or maybe both. I was going to grab the calendar. I believe it's the 25th, but let me confirm. And so we'll make a motion and we'll correct that one.
I assume it'd be the same, but if there was no applicants, we just wouldn't have meetings on those scheduled dates. They're placeholders, kind of contingent on the volume of like applicants.
Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of background. This board is subject to the Open Meetings Act, and the Open Meetings Act requires that at the beginning of each year or within a certain number of days, I want to say 10 days after the first meeting of the year, all public boards must publish their regular meeting schedule. And our clerk has been asking if boards can, if possible, approve that schedule before the end of the year, and we'd like to get all of this up before the end of the year as well. You're absolutely right. You can, with a motion of the board, cancel meetings. You could also call any special meetings, as long as those are publicly posted and noticed, so the public knows that they have the ability to attend those meetings and that you'll be convening publicly and making decisions. You're welcome to hold any of these meetings if there's any business you'd like on the agenda. Certainly, staff tries to, make sure we're holding these when there are applications to move forward. So all of these, for the most part, are the fourth Tuesday, starting at 4 o'clock. So essentially the same schedule as this year. That's certainly up for discussion amongst this board. You have the ability to set your schedule for times that work for you. So think about that. And lastly, though, I did change December, and I know we're going to talk about this in staff announcements or staff updates for this year, but for next year, December meeting, I moved that up 1 week to December 19th. If you all want to hold a meeting, that avoids what I think is going to be a Christmas holiday for most folks that following Tuesday.
You're referring to December 2023, right?
December 2023, correct. And we'll talk about December 2022 at the end of this meeting.
All right. Should I specify that change or?
Sure.
Okay.
In the motion, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, can I entertain a motion to approve the 2023 annual meeting schedule for the Natural Features Review Board with a change in the July date to the 23rd? 25th. I didn't write it down. Okay.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support?
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Great, motion passes. So that's it for new business. Now, I don't have anything under old business. Great.
No old business.
And then we have staff updates.
Yeah, so for staff updates, I just wanted to ask about the December meeting for next month. I don't have any applications right now for NFP review. We still are getting quite a few things trickling in for the end of the year for site plan review. So I just wanted to put that out there that this board could decide. I guess I just wanted to know if there were going to be any quorum issues with the regular scheduled meeting is Tuesday, December 27. We will have staff to support at that time. I'll be in the office and available if we want to have a meeting at 4 o'clock. But I just wanted to make this board aware, trying to make sure we would have quorum. That might be a difficult meeting time to make sure that we have enough for voting purposes. So if you all wanted, we could call a special meeting on December 20th, like the Tuesday before, and cancel the 27th. And I could certainly, I thought it'd be nice to be able to talk publicly about it here on what you want to do. And then I can notify folks by email if we get an application in or something pressing business that the board has to do, and then I can set in motion the notices and make sure you all get your agenda. You could cancel if you feel like you're going to have quorum issues, and I could move applications forward to the January meeting, but I just wanted to kind of get this board's opinion and weigh in on what would work for your schedules, just to make sure we're suggesting dates that would have a quorum.
I think if it's possible and won't create any issues moving to the January, unless you expect some like absurd volume of applicants in January or something. That's just my thought. But if needed, I could
Yeah, that would be my preference. I have travel plans to be away both of those December dates. I could alter them to be here, but, you know, if there's an application that needs to move forward, I would be okay with meeting in December if we're going to, but.
It sounds like we could have some issues with quorum in December. Is anyone else going to potentially be gone both those dates?
I'm available both dates, but there's no reason to have the meeting if there's no business to conduct in December. It's not unusual to.
Yep, that sounds great. And as far as applications, I don't have any applications in at the moment or projects on my radar that would have to be reviewed. And then we're also going to see, I'm imagining that site plan review meetings are now probably being scheduled out to the third week of December or later. And so thinking, you know, as far as a project that's looking for approvals, they could get they probably wouldn't get site plan review until January, so then they could visit this board shortly thereafter and be ready to go. So I think that skipping that meeting and doing January makes sense. If anything pressing comes up, and we would know in the next couple of weeks, because as we get closer, it's not as challenging to push things out, I'll notify you guys. And if there's no business or nothing pressing, I'll let applicants know, kind of set that expectation that more than likely we'd ask them to visit the January meeting, and then I'll send you guys a cancellation notice as we get closer.
Great.
Great. And was that it for staff updates?
I think that's all I have for staff updates.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any announcements to make before we adjourn?
Jamie, do we have any other applicants submitting for the vacancy?
That's a great topic. We have one application received to date, so I would encourage everybody, I'll remind our staff to continue to advertise that on social media. And I'm going to try to send it out to some of my networks, but if you all have folks in mind who might serve the board really well, I think we have all of the sort of there's sort of 4 main expertise that have to be represented on the board, and we have all of those covered, so it really is up to you to fill in with, backfill with maybe some experience or knowledge that you think would help serve the board. So having a diverse applicant pool would be a really positive thing. I would be fine if the board's okay with trying to really recruit some applicants in December, asking them, again, the city's new website has a more streamlined application. It's all online. Those go to the clerk's office and then they get sent to me. So I will see them not instantaneously, but I can usually get those from the clerk in just a day or two.
Is city residency a requirement? Did you say there's some softening of that?
So this board in particular does not have to adhere to a city residency requirement. That's typically the requirement of all city boards. However, this written into the ordinance states that board members do not have to be Kalamazoo city residents. And the board has a lot of makeup of city residents, so I would feel pretty comfortable that having someone from the area, even regionally, who can attend our meetings in person, I think that's probably the limitation. All of that would be acceptable, yes.
Okay. Hearing no more announcements or comments, we will adjourn today's meeting. Yeah.
Use the gavel.
Okay.